Hi there, and thanks again for choosing Donorfy. I hope you have had a chance to watch the initial video, which is just an overview of getting set up with Donorfy. So this is step one and all about configuring Donorfy. So customizing Donorfy to what you need, to the processes that you do in your charity and how you work. Step two is all about importing data, and step three is all about integrating with other systems. So this part is all about getting your foundations right, so making sure that your system's set up really well. The next part will be about getting your history in, and the third part is all about getting data in moving forward. So this is really the foundations of getting Donorfy right from the beginning. Just a reminder, if you need more help, so our online community, Donorfy chat, and our events, so our deep dives that we run, can help you to learn more. The community is a really great place if you want to do things like understanding how other people in other charities have set up their Donorfy for different purposes. So I do encourage you to go there if you do need some help. Our online knowledge base as well, and YouTube channels that has got everything you need to know. You'll spend a lot of time there over the next period while you're setting up Donorfy. And don't forget, our support team are always on hand, so do just raise a ticket with the team if you need some additional support or are getting stuck with any technical queries. If you think actually it's not quite working and you do need some additional help and you've got some budget, then our onboarding service or partners will be really pleased to help you get to the next stage of your Donorfy journey. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through how we configure and customize Donorfy. I'm going to take you through lots of different areas that you might want to consider. Just to mention that a lot of things come out of the box with Donorfy already. So we'll have set up a lot of things for you when you first open the system, and you might notice that when you log in, there's a lot set up already. But of course, you'll want to add, amend, or even remove things that we've done already, which is absolutely fine. So just head to settings and configuration, and this is where it all happens. So I'm going to take you through all the different areas that you might want to think about as we go through this video today. And just remember that all of Donorfy can be customized to your needs. Just some tips. It might be that it's been a little while since you've seen a demo of Donorfy, so I'm assuming that you've got to this point and you know your way around the system a little bit. If not, just head to our YouTube channel. There's the latest demo video on there. You can just have a bit of a refresher. I'd really recommend spending time on this stage. If you do this bit right, you will do really well moving forward with Donorfy. So as much time as possible to spend having a think about this to make sure that things are set up really well. Another little tip is to just think about things outside of Donorfy first. So I'll be showing you where to set it up, but when you're thinking through all your different things that you want to customize, it's really good just to take a step back and have a think outside of Donorfy, what you want to be doing, what type of data that you want to be recording as well. Okay, so I'm going to take you on a little guided tour of configuration. So the first area we're going to go to is constituents. Now, as I've mentioned, we'll give you some standard ones when you start, so different constituent types. So companies, individuals and trusts will be the standard ones, and they've got different icons on there. But you might want to add some of your own as well. So if you do want to add more, try and keep them as high level as possible. So think about what they always are. So not volunteers and donors as constituent types, because some people could be both. So we'll use tags to be able to segment people further. So constituent types is about keeping things really high level. When you set up the constituent types, you will go to settings and configuration. And whenever you're looking for a setting, you just type in what you're looking for. So here it's constituent types. So what we can see with this example is that we've marked this constituent as a group, and you can choose a different fancy icon for it if you want to as well. So groups are anything that are non-individual constituent types. So anything where you just will want to record name rather than first name and last name, for example. All of your non-individual constituents should go on as a group, so just make sure to tick that button. You'll also want to think about whether you want to show all of the panels. So we'll go, hopefully you're familiar with what a profile looks like, but think about whether you want all of the panels or whether you just want contact details. You might not want a preference center, if it's a place of worship, for example. You might not want fundraising pages. You probably want social information. So have a think about what types of data that you want to show on the record, just to keep that nice and tidy. You might also not want to show all tag categories. So you might have some different information. So whether it's sector or something like that, or different tag types. So you'll need to set up your tag categories first. And once you've done that, you can come back to the constituent types to change that as well. So we've talked a little bit about tags already. So this is kind of your next level of detail on how people are segmented in your database. So you've got the high level constituent types, and then at a lower level we have our tags as well. So again, we give you some standard ones. These aren't the standard ones, just to say there'll be a lot fewer on there, but you might want to think about if you want to add different types of tags onto your system. Again, tip is to come out of Donorfy for a moment. Have a think about the attributes that you want to record about a constituent. Bear in mind as well that with the professional version of Donorfy, you've got auto tags as well. So some of the things that you might have already been recording, like whether somebody is a low, medium or high value donor, you could make that process automated. So you want to create the tag for that, but just bear in mind there might be some things that you've never been able to do before because it's too difficult, and you can use Donorfy to automate those tags for you. You then want to group them together and they become your tag categories. So these are the boxes that the tags sit within. So try and think about all of your tags, everything that you want to record, and then pop them into group. And then as you set up, you'll set up tag categories. And then within the tag categories, you'll set up all the tags that you want in your drop down here. Try and use your existing database, so existing fields in your database system, or if you're using a spreadsheet, your column headers. Try and use that as a starting point, and then think about also other areas of data that you might not be recording at the moment and you would want to. So have a think about that first, and then think about how you might want to grow your data recording. You can also think about your reporting. So what are the different attributes you want to report on? How do you want to mail people from different segments? Do you have different processes to manage people? So for example, membership tags are really popular in Donorfy. Have a think about all the different things that tags will help you with, rather than just some basic details about somebody. And again, just to configure it, you head over to Settings, Configuration. We'll go to Tags and Tag Categories. This is the first high level, so this is where you'd set up a tag category to start with. Once you've set up your tag category, you will then go to see the tags in the category, and you can add another tag on here. You might want to add extra fields to your tag as well if you want to record more detail within the tag. So for example, if I go back to Preeti's record and I have a look on one of the tags here, I can see that the DBS check has got some details in there, so reference number, DBS level. So you can add additional fields in here if you want to as well. If you do want to make anything into auto tags, I'd really recommend just going to the help function and typing in auto tags onto here. It's a really quick process to set it up. So just hit the search button and it will show you an article for how to set up auto tags in your system for things to start happening for you automatically in Donorfy. Okay. The next part of the record we'll have a look at is purposes. So this is all to do with your communications, so how people want to stay in touch with you. Again, we've given you some as standard, but you might want to remove, reword, or add some of your own as well. So think about if there's specific things that you contact people about and want to record. Connection types. So this is all to do with how people connect to each other, people to companies. The bits that we're thinking about when it comes to configuration is these words here. So how do you connect people together? What are the different relationship types that they can have between companies and people and people as well? Connections can be singular, for example, friend, that relationship goes both ways, or reciprocal, for example, employed by or employee of. So if you do want to add more, then have a think about what those connection types are that you want to record and report on. Campaigns in Donorfy are all to do with your events, appeals, anything where you have a target or some goals around something and you want to keep track or report on it as part of your fundraising. We've given some examples here. You will probably have your own campaigns that you've been running. You can import a history if you want to. If you have lots, you can import your campaign, otherwise add them individually. You can also add data against your campaigns later. So when we get to the upload stage, you'll be able to put it against a campaign so that that data will get sorted into the right place. The reason why it's really good to have your campaign set up in Donorfy is that whenever data gets added, so whether I'm just manually adding an activity to the timeline or a transaction, or if I'm uploading data, or if data comes in via the integration, it always gets added to a campaign. And if it's not selected, it will just go against the general campaign unless you specify otherwise. So that's why it's good to get your campaigns into Donorfy from the start. Activity types. So we'll head over to the next part of the record now, which is the timeline. And you want to have a think if there's any other activity types that aren't already on the system that you might want to add. So if I want to add an activity, so these are all the things that appear here in the drop down menu, and if there are other things that you're doing that you want to record, then you can add them activity types onto Donorfy using settings. As we've just been talking about campaigns, just remember that some things can be added as a campaign to group activities together. So for example, for a marathon, you'd probably actually have it as an event registration, so a fundraising event, and then your campaign would be the marathon. So you don't necessarily have to have a new activity for every activity type. Your activity types can be quite high level, and then you can use campaigns to segment them as well. So just have a think about that as you're adding activity types, what types of activities you want to add onto the system. It might also be that there's some custom fields that you want to add onto the activity and report on, and so you can add those when you set up the activity type in settings. And think about your field types as well for data quality. So if it's just a yes or no that you're recording, then you'd probably want to use this button here as a field type rather than the free text, just to help you with data quality. So to configure your activities, you could just go, should all be on there as default. You can go to the activity that you're configuring and then add your additional fields. So text fields, date fields, number fields, yes, no fields. Add those onto there and make it active or not on your database. Okay, the next part, so we've done activities on the timeline. The next part we're going to look at is transactions. So this is quite a big area, and there's a few different elements to any type of financial data that gets added into Donorfy. What I'd recommend is working with your finance manager on this part. So feel free to watch it, but maybe come back to it with them or send this part to them to help you set up the data in the right way. So there are a few different elements within the financial coding, and we've added a few of the most common types of products and funds and payment methods that you might have already in the system. But obviously you might want to add more and configure them, and also the main thing is mapping them to your financial codes as well. So even if you don't need to add anything more, it's still worth going through the list and mapping them to your financial codes. So we'll take a look at a transaction, and just to show you the different areas. So we first of all have products. So this is what people buy from you. The funds are where the money is going to be spent. So where you're going to have the money go. Payment method. So how the payment was made, whether it was by cash, check, direct debit, however it was paid to you. Channels, where it came through. So this is slightly different to the payment method because somebody might pay by credit or debit card, but their channel is website. And then, for example, Facebook, the payment method is Facebook and the channel is Facebook. So the channel is more sort of marketing. Where did that come through? And your payment method is the method by which they made made the payment. Bank accounts and departments. Most people just have one account, but if you do have more, then do add them onto the system. And finally, the department that it's going to as well. So if you do have different departments within your team, then you can add that on there to the system. Okay, and yeah, it's really important to configure these to help you with your gift aid reclaiming and also mapping to your financial codes for financial reconciliation. So we'll have a look at each area and how to configure them. So if you go to Settings, Configuration, the first one we're going to look at is the product. So just type in what we're looking for. If you need to add a new one, then you can have a think about all your different products. So what are the things that people buy from you? For example, donations, event tickets, merchandise, membership. Make a list of all of these. Have a think about whether they're eligible for gift aid or not. So for example, one might be a membership, and we might mark that as not gift aidable if they're sort of receiving something as part of that membership. It might be that goes to a default fund as well, that membership type. It might, and also make sure that you then add your account interface code. So this is how it maps in your account system, whatever you're using. The financial coding, so we'll talk about funds. So again, let's head over to funds. When you add a new one, simply just add your account interface code. So this is where your money goes and the accounts code that it maps to in your finance system. You might want to show the fund as slightly different on any out-facing forms, so any supporter-facing forms on your website, in which case you can change the description here if you want to. Payment method. So have a think about all the different ways that you receive money, so standing order, just giving, credit or debit card. So if you're adding new ones, whether they're recurring or not. Again, the accounts interface code, what it's coded as on your finance system. And then one of the most important things here is whether it's eligible for gift aid. So for example, if you're reclaiming gift aid through Just Giving, then Just Giving isn't eligible for gift aid. However, Facebook might be, so do turn that on and off as you see fit. Channels, again, simply just add them on here. There's no sort of major configuration to do, just making them active or not. It doesn't map to any accounts codes, but you can just add new ones if you need to. So bank accounts and departments. You may just have one of these, but if you do have more than one, then just make sure that they're mapped to your accounts code, or make sure that any of them are mapped to your accounts codes anyway. So if we go to bank account, and just put in the accounts code, you can add any active or inactive bank accounts as well. And then finally, departments. So if you do have different departments, you can mark them as active or not, and then you can, if you want to report on your data in this way. Okay, so that's the main part of customization for Donorfy. As you can see, there's quite a few areas to work on. Hopefully not too overwhelming. It's really good to spend some time on this stage, just so that you're setting up your Donorfy really well from the start, and it will help you massively when you're importing your data to know that everything's going into the right place and how you want it to. There are some other areas that you can customize as well. This is just a list. You can definitely come back to it. You don't have to do all this now, but just as sort of a different area that you might want to configure as an optional thing. You can search the knowledge base for the latest features as well. So this video is sort of correct at the time of when we've made it, but there might be some additional features that have been added from the roadmap. So do go and have a look on the knowledge base to see some of the latest things. So the first one we're going to look at is opportunities. So this is available on the professional plan of Donorfy. So we've given you boards, so these are processes that you'll go through for each of your different opportunity types, whether it's a grant application or a corporate sponsorship, volunteer recruitment. If you have other ones that you want to add, you can add other opportunity types. You might want to keep these opportunity types but change the stages that people go through. So you can do that in the settings. You might also want to add tasks as people go from one stage to the next that staff members need to complete as the opportunity goes through the different stages. So you can do that in settings. You can change all of the settings here for your opportunities, and there's a more in-depth video on our YouTube channel if you do want to find out more about configuring opportunities. You might also want to think about changing your funding locations and funding preferences. So this is when you do prospect research on potential donors. You might want to add some more to this if there's different areas. The other stage you might want to think about before integrating with your website is your branding for your forms. So if you do have any brand guidelines, fonts and colours that you use for your organisation, then this is the place to do it. So this is where you can configure all of your branding for your Donorfy forms so that when they go into your website, everything looks and feels like it's integrated with your website. So that's another thing you could set up. Also, the document templates for thanking donors. So if we head over to the settings configuration, hopefully you're familiar with this now, then you'll be able to change all of the different acknowledgements, thank you letters, documents that you might send out on a regular basis. These can be HTML coded as well. So if you do want to work with a developer to improve the way that these look, then you're able to do that through the document templates here. Campaign tags. So we've got our campaigns here, but if you do want to report on them in different ways or group them together, you can add campaign tags. So again, just go to settings, configuration, tags, look for your campaign tags and add any additional ones that you might have in the system. List tags. So on your lists, if you want to group your lists into folders, or for example, if you have trustees reports or lists that you want to send out, or individual giving ones, you can tag lists in different ways, or for different team members to sort of group them all together in different ways. So if we go to configuration again and we go to tags and tag categories, you've got your tags for organizing lists, and you can add some more here. The final thing you might want to think about is automation. So triggers is a really helpful tool to be able to do that. So you can just head to data management and triggers. So if you did want to think about getting an email alert when a donation over a certain amount was made, or if you wanted to start a MailChimp journey when somebody became a regular donor, then you can start looking into triggers. I'd recommend heading to our YouTube channel or knowledge base just to have a look at how you can start setting up some of these triggers, so that when your data starts coming into Donorfy, you've got some automation already set up. But again, you can come back to all of these things later. You don't have to do it all straight away. Some frequently asked questions is, do I have to think of everything straight away? The answer is no. It is good to spend as much as you can at this stage to be able to go through the process, just to make sure sort of everything's set up properly. If you get stuck, head over to our Donorfy chat to chat to other users about how they got on. Use our support for any sort of technical queries. If you think actually you do need a bit more sort of professional support and you've got some budget, then a reminder that our onboarding service and partners are available if you do need a helping hand as well. Just get in touch with one of the team to arrange that. If things change in the future, then you can change things in the system. That's quite a common question. Of course, you know, you will have things that change. So that's why we've set up Donorfy, so that you can reconfigure things yourself. And hopefully going through this process, you'll be quite used to it. So you'll be able to change things around in future. If you can't see a certain part of Donorfy, so if you've been watching this video and log in and you think, actually, I can't see the settings, I can't see the opportunities, then just double check with whoever set up your account that you are on as an administrator. You'll need to be an administrator to do all of this configuration. So just make sure that you are an administrator. Also that you've got access to certain parts of the system. So when you are an administrator, you'll get access to everything. If you click on here, for example, it says that you're on the Essentials version, then that's because opportunities is a feature on the professional version of Donorfy. Same with gift aid and accounts download as well. So if those areas are kind of there but not showing anything, then that's why. Okay, so the next, we've done configure and customize. Go away and have a little go at that. Run through, feel free to watch this video as much as you need. Then the next step we're going to talk about is importing your data. So we'll go through that next. Thanks for listening, and thanks again for choosing Donorfy.